It's October, it's sunny, and I'm heading out, continuing my Sussex Borderland exploration. I was last in Rowland Castle, Hampshire, and then in Stansted Park in Sussex. But now I'm moving further up the border and slightly west to explore the charming village of Compton. It's a long village with houses mostly renovated in the 19th century. An old village indeed, for it is mentioned in Alfred the Great's will and bequeathed to his nephew Athan.
When I drove through the village, I had to come through the south, because obviously I live in the south of Sussex, and I parked up, I think, on the north side of the village, or the northeast side of the village, I suppose, and I'm just walking through because there seemed to be very limited parking here at Compton, which I'm pleased to say is in Sussex. I can hear the distant strains actually from one of the houses around me of a piano being played, but I just stopped here at this sort of east end of the village on this green, but I noticed the house behind me. It's called Pond House, so it immediately made me wonder if this used to be a pond here, but it's since grassed over. Who knows? And now a van has just parked up there and is watching what I'm doing. So I wonder what that's all about.
Looking at an old Ordnance Survey map, I see that my supposition is correct. There was a pond at one time, a big one too. It's just a shame that it's all been filled in. The properties are lovely to look at. Some of them, I gather, have the initials GPH on them. G. Phipps Hornby, presumably the builder, not the toy train manufacturer. Although I did find one Sir Geoffrey Thomas Phipps Hornby, Admiral of the Fleet, whose ashes were scattered in Compton's church. Coincidence? Or the same chap? We'll be visiting the church presently. And this was his flagship, HMS Liverpool. Oh, and he used to live at Lordington House, which is just down the road a few miles, at Walderton, close to the Racton Folly. Now, what about that van driver?
I think he was lost, the lorry driver. And, well, he was lost and his sat-nav had packed up, so I did the honourable thing and asked somebody where he was trying to get to, which was West Dean. Anyway, the chap who I asked for directions from, for the chap with the van, this is getting very complicated and unnecessarily so, asked me what I was doing, because in the town, in the village here, sorry, there's bikes everywhere today. I've seen a whole load of I don't know whether they were Hell's Angels, but there were certainly lots of motorbikers, a whole, like a club of them. He asked what I was doing because there'd been people in the village with tape measures and nobody knew what they were doing. So I explained what I was doing and said nothing to do with them. So people seem to be a bit twitchy.
Twitchy or not, I enjoyed looking at the houses, trying to work out the relationship between each other. This one's a bit easier to decipher. Compton House, eh? Yes, a dirty Great Georgian pile. Lovely. There was money in this village back in the day. Clearly there still is. Isn't it brilliant to see the autumn colours in these rural settings? It's just what the English village was made for. Ivy, flint, slate, brick and wood, the simple elements needed to create a rural idyll. Oh, and the village pub, of course. Here's the village well. You gonna have a look, Mr. Vobes? Of course you are.
I'm on my way up to try and find the church. I can hear a cockerel crowing. There is a shoot going on somewhere in the south of the village, and it's just very quiet and peaceful. Other than that, all the rural idyll that you would want from a village. I'm really enjoying this wonderful look round. So I think I'm going uphill, so I'm assuming the church must be up this way, and also I think just see peeping above a tree a little spire, so I'm going to see if I can find it.
It was only when I got home did I learn the dedication of Compton's church, St Mary's. It was mentioned in the Domesday Book, so possibly has Saxon origins, but what we have here is far more recent. In the 12th century, the church was given to Lewes Priory, along with 32 acres of arable glebe. Nice bit of farming for the vicar there. The oldest part traceable is this half-buried arcade with a column and capital. It led, in the 12th century, to the north aisle, now long since demolished.
I always like to have a look round the exterior of a church before I go in, or even see if I can go in, so I haven't tried the door yet. But I noticed this has got two aisles. It's got a southern aisle and it's got the main nave and a chancel, so it's obviously undergone a lot. And just looking at the big Georgian property here and what have you, then you get the sense that it was a very important church, this big farming community, Compton Farm, just behind me. Let's go and have a look at the other side. I see that the church is, well, obviously built of flint and rubble, with some form of sandstone coins on the edges there. This is whatever the latest fabric was, but of course we're not that far from Kingley Vale and the South Downs, of course, and we're still in Sussex, and this part is clearly still got plenty of flint as its main building material. But this clearly is a much later edition. I guess it's Victorian. I'm going to speculate here and probably get it all wrong, but it's probably a Victorian restoration from what was no doubt something that was falling into disrepair. That tended to be the case, as we know on our explorations of old churches. But fascinating to see. I'm wondering, being a downland church, whether it was ever thatched. It's actually it's got tile roof now. Hasn't got Horsham stone. I'm imagining Horsham was probably too far away to get those big heavy stone slabs in, or maybe there was just plenty of clay in the area, and hence the fact that ceramic tiles were okay. I can hear a school out somewhere, and also a strange mechanical something. I don't know if the microphone's picking that up. Well, my first impression of the church, and I know absolutely nothing as I come in, not even the dedication actually, funnily enough, is that it's incredibly Victorianised. All the tiles and the detail, it's quite a modern rebuild. So it makes me wonder what kind of state the church was before. Interesting to think about the opening porchway there with the strange little pillar, which could have been another archway. But like all churches, it is a sanctuary for people to come and pray and be with their Maker, if that's the faith they have. And I'm all for that. There's a nice atmosphere in here, and it's certainly cooler than outside. I imagine it gets quite cold. I can see that there are lights as well as candles, so they presumably do have some electricity in here. But it's actually, for the fact that it's got these two aisles, it is quite small. I can see that there was no north aisle, except that you do see actually where the pillar and presumably the north entrance and the north porch, perhaps it just collapsed, which is just clearly behind me here. It's got a very small little compact organ which is above me, and it looks like just two sally ropes, which I assume means that there are two bells. I'm not going to pull it, but fascinating church nonetheless. I see that it's conker season. The old horse chestnuts now are dropping their conkers, and as kids in the autumn term probably picking them up. At least I hope they're picking them up and playing conkers like kids used to do in my day and before. Boil them in vinegar and make them as hard as possible, drill a hole and put them on the string and do all that business. It's very nice to see. The lovely Julia and I, we did try planting some conkers, and I'd be tempted to take these back and plant them as well and see if we could grow some horse chestnuts, but I see that even this conker tree has a bit of that canker, which is the browning of the leaves, and that's what affected the one we did, so I'm going to leave these here. There's a lane here just up from the church which heads up onto the hills, and I thought it would be prudent to just have a quick climb up, have a look. Also I wanted to see if I can get a signal to my phone, because in Compton there is no signal. And I'm going to go up here and just see where it takes me for a few minutes before I either go back to the van or I noticed there was a little shop. I might be able to get a cup of coffee and perhaps a flapjack or something, or even a sandwich would be good.
What I didn't know was that above Compton Hangar, where I was stationed an old telegraph post used by the Admiralty to send signals from London to ports in the 18th century. It's still marked on a modern map. Also, another must-see at the north end of the hangar, an ancient long barrow called Bevis Thumb. Clearly, I'll have to come back.
I just found an interesting little thing, little camp a sort of wild camp really, but an organised wild camp. I guess not really a wild camp, because the whole point of a wild camp is that you camp and then you don't leave any sign that you've been there. But here the canopies are clearly there, and there's pots and pans and bits and bobs. I guess it must be for perhaps the local scouts or cubs, or maybe, I don't know, a regular group or something who go there, or even fugitives maybe hiding out there. I did feel like I was intruding, so I made sure I retreated somewhat. There are dark clouds up ahead. They may only be temporary, but I can't see much of the sky, so I've decided to go back, go to that little shop in the town, a little coffee shop, have myself some refreshment, maybe a sandwich or something, see how much change I've got. If not, I'll go back to the van. Well, this is rather nice. I've come to the little cafe here and I've got myself a cup of coffee and a Tunnock's caramel wafer biscuit, and I can watch the world go by whilst I have a rest. So it's been very successful on this trip. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm going to drink my coffee. I'll let you know what it's like. Black Americano. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. The noise you can hear in the background is a booker's van loading the pub opposite. I'll have a biscuit now. I'm heading back to Worthing. I've had a lovely day in Compton, close to the Sussex border, but it's time to head back and have a cup of tea and have a look at the rushes.